So now for something completely different. So I started off looking at the rhetoric of John F. Kennedy, and in particular looking for conceptions of virtue. And the idea was started by reading Plutarch last summer with a few history students. And Plutarch's whole sort of mantra throughout his biographies is to show that leaders who show virtue succeed, whereas leaders that don't fail. So as I started looking at Kennedy and looking for traces of this sort of ancient conception of virtue in his rhetoric, I found that it was always tied up with his term, the new frontier. So this was Kennedy's big selling point. He used it to get elected, and he used it all through his unfortunately short presidency. So when one considers the new frontier, one has to look at the old frontier. And as soon as the frontier is mentioned in American history, you have to talk about Frederick Jackson Turner. Turner was a turn-of-the-century American historian who wrote, it was a last-minute paper he wrote in 1893 to give at a conference called The Frontier Thesis, and it ended up changing American historiography for the next 60 years. Yeah, so his procrastination does indeed pay off. Basically, he says that the physical demands of the frontier, as people moved west throughout the 19th century, left a permanent and lasting mark, and in fact shaped American political institutions and society. So this became the main understanding of how American society was shaped throughout the 19th century and into the 20th. So I have Turner, an academic, and I have Kennedy, president, in the 1960s, and I need some way to link the two. So since I think I see similarities in their rhetoric, I started looking at educational books used throughout the 19th century and into the 20th century, specifically the McGuffey's Readers. These were published in 1836 originally and had several variations throughout the 19th century, and were, with the exception of Webster's Dictionary and the Bible, were the most published book in North America to this date. Looking at McGuffey's Readers, I think it's the key to understanding both Kennedy's rhetoric and Turner's frontier. Because McGuffey, the curriculum is it's moralizing. It's all about creating the proper citizen to live within the republic, and he makes no bones about creating this very moralizing curriculum. I realized that the same people that succeeded with McGuffey, the captains of industry, are the same people that Turner holds up as examples of his frontier ideals. So then going back to Kennedy's rhetoric, Kennedy simultaneously holds up these same sort of ideals that McGuffey and Turner describe. Unfortunately, they all use different terminology, but at the core, the same theme is there, and that's this very ancient Aristotelian concept of virtue, in that how should we behave as citizens in a society. So unfortunately, because this project evolves very unlinearly, the conclusion, I actually ended up coming to two conclusions rather than one. The first is that Kennedy's new frontier is actually a reimagining of Turner's original frontier, which would seem fairly obvious, except no one's actually said it. So I get to say that. Second, both Kennedy and Turner, the ideals that they espouse and the ideals that they say create American society and American political institutions are at their core institutions of virtue. And so their ideal citizen, both Turner and Kennedy, is a virtuous citizen. And yeah, that's what I got.